Welcome to Terror in Tandem, a podcast about finding entertainment in the macabre, hosted by the knowledgeable and lovable Laura and Richard Mathiasen. Each episode we discuss the horror genre, from books to film to TV and beyond, sometimes even from the beyond. You can find us on YouTube and on Instagram at Terror in Tandem, and you'll always find our latest episode at terrorintandem.com.
You sure can. And you sure will.
And should. Sure should.
Absolutely.
It's a sure shot. So, hi. Hello.
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome to a very special episode of Terror in Tandem.
They're all special.
We are revisiting a fan favorite, a classic. Please stop sending letters and calling. The phones are... God, the board is just overloading. There are sparks shooting out of it.
Yeah, our phone operator has
curled
walked
up
away and
in a sunbeam,
licked herself.
Just can't even.
NSFW, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. That goes without saying. So
it's what you call available on the kitty cam.
We are, as you know, a podcast, and on this podcast we're going to be talking about a thing that we like to do to each other called Made You.
Yeah. Na, 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 na.
Sure did. Yeah. Nothing you can do. You're stuck because I poisoned you.
It's more like forced you, but we thought we would be nicer in our delivery and say made you.
It's more like, put needles in your eyelids and made you, kept them moistened.
Yeah.
So I made you watch a movie, and you also made me watch
we made each other watch.
Movies. Made you watch. Made you watch a live autopsy.
We made each other watch.
Made you watch could be anything. Like made you watch a crime scene unfold.
Made you watch me be with another lover.
Oh, God. Welcome to...
Oh, I'm sorry. That crosses the line.
Welcome to Cock
You're
Talk.
like, autopsy, murder. And I'm like, another lover. And you're like, that's it. I'm disgusted.
I'm your host, Beta Soy Boy, Cuck and Steve. So I made you watch the 1988 horror comedy classic, which recently is celebrating a very successful run of a long in development sequel. Of course, I'm talking Beetlejuice. I made you watch it.
I did, because I'd never watched it.
Yes.
Believe it or not, Terror and Tandemites, I never watched it.
Despite being of the target demographic for the nostalgia hungry sequel, you've never seen the original.
Yeah. I was busy.
Oh, like, hanging out with boys and being cool?
Yeah, I was like 15, almost 15.
Yeah, well, I
didn't have time to watch Beetlejuice.
I was busy watching movies and being cool. Watching movies, which is a cool thing that cool people do.
I doubt you watched this when you were 8.
No, I doubt I was allowed to watch this when I was 8. It was probably dubbed devil worship by my...
Well, it is.
Yeah, it's... kind of, not unfairly. So, that not devil worship, but anyway, I made you watch.
We're starting with Beetlejuice.
I made you watch Beetlejuices.
So why don't you talk about it a little bit?
Let me intro this one a bit. So
we just jumped right in, everyone.
We did. Why waste time? 1988. This is director Tim Burton at the absolute height of his powers. Early on in his career, he was a bankable commodity, having done Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which is a big hit. And it's awesome.
I definitely watched that and loved it.
A couple of interesting things about this.
I guess I didn't know Tim Burton did that.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
Right now.
And the sequel, Big Top Pee-wee.
Yeah.
Not as good. But anyway, now...
And knitting.
This did not start off as the playful Grand Guignol, horror comedy.
No, it was supposed to be like murder.
It was supposed to be. The original drafts of the script, which were not really able to get sold, were much darker. And in particular, the car crash scene that takes the lives of Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, I take issue with that scene altogether.
Well, in the original movie, it's
you fall into a creek.
Pretty silly.
Yeah.
But in the original draft of the film, it was a pretty graphic and lingering death where they had like limbs crushed, and it took a long time for them to die, and stuff like that. So the script, bounced around Hollywood for a while. I think something like 30 studios said no to it. And then, it got reworked. Tim Burton got his crazy hands all over it. And we have Beetlejuice. Now, a lot of the character of Beetlejuice is Michael Keaton. He ad-libbed a lot of his lines. He was heavily involved in the look of the character. He was the one who insisted that he have like grave dirt on his face and moss and really look like a dead lounge singing scumbag, basically.
Like a beetle a human beetle.
There is a lot of that
from the underworld.
But he really looks like somebody that just crawled out of the dirt. With like a chemically assisted hard-on. So he is all over this movie. It's also his favorite role that he's ever played. He says it all the time when asked, "What's your favorite role?" Beetlejuice. So it's a bit of a play on the urban myth of Bloody Mary, and that was explored in Candyman. It's just like the idea of summoning something by name. Michael Keaton plays a bioexorcist who is hired to scare a living family out of the ghosts that used to own the house. Anyway, look, I'm going to let my co-host get into the plot and what she thought of it, but there is one point of question that was asked off mic, so I'll bring it up now. Yes, Beetlejuice, as spelled Betelgeuse, is pronounced Beetlejuice, and that is how the character's name is spelled, and that is actually the character's real name. It's the name of the star. It's the brightest star in the night sky. They changed the title to phonetically spell Beetlejuice because they were worried audiences wouldn't know how to pronounce Beetlejuice as spelled like the star. And honestly, probably a good move. I don't think a lot of people would have gotten that right. So that leads us to co-host now. So like just real quick before I let you go off, I chose this for you because I know that you like Tim Burton at his best. I mean, you and I like the same kind of Tim Burton, like the dark, playful, anarchic Tim Burton. This is that. You like most of the cast, and it's something that when I found out you had never seen it, I just felt like, well, we really gotta close that gap. That's one that I think you should watch. So,
well, why don't you explain how you felt when you first saw it?
Oh man, well, here's the difference.
When you first saw it and things like that.
Yeah, here's the difference, folks. So, like, I saw it when I was a kid, right? And I loved it, but it also scared me. It was scary enough to scare a child. It was like goofy enough that I was allowed to, I think, get away with it. Watch it maybe when I was like 10 or so. But it mesmerized me. I mean, Michael Keaton was so wild and confident and outrageous. I had a huge crush on Winona Ryder, and honestly still do. And
she stole your heart.
I mean, Lydia Dietz is like the ultimate goth crush.
She's never gonna live that down, poor Winona Ryder.
Well, whatever. She had her fun. And I definitely saw this in a different mind state than you did as a fully grown and like woman who,
and like woman.
Exactly. Yeah, well said.
I'm a fully grown and like woman, everyone.
A human female, as we say. No, but I did see this as a child, and then I've seen it many, many times over the years, and my fondness for it, remains. But a lot of that probably stems from watching it with my dad, singing the Harry Belafonte songs, and like joking around with it. And it was fun, but there were moments of it that were just scary enough to make me hide my eyes, but like not enough that I would like run out of the room.
Yeah. Well, I will start out by saying, I don't know, explaining why I've never seen this movie. I don't know. I can't tell you. I think maybe I was just at a stage in life where it didn't appeal to me, and then it was too late. Everybody had already seen it, and I kind of already understood what it was about.
It was enough in the zeitgeist that you like kind of knew the plot.
Yeah, but I didn't actually. When I watched it, I was surprised because I had no idea that Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin's characters were dead.
Oh, that's kind of
Yeah.
That's a big plot point.
Yeah, because I guess when the movie first started, it was, just sweet Barbara and boring Adam just hanging out in their home, a vacation at home.
This, of course, being back when Alec Baldwin was at his prime, and we didn't know a lot of the things we know now.
Yeah, we didn't hear any of those recorded voicemails.
Yes. Speaking, also Jeffrey Jones, another winner in this one.
So we see this couple vacationing at home, living just kind of a plain life, building a model of a town that's pretty cute, but their house is very strange and interesting. And they die. We already talked about it. Then their house gets sold to downstaters, I guess, from New York City.
Yeah,
big city.
They don't have any respect for anything, those city folk.
It's Delia and Charles, Jeffrey Jones. We're not going to really talk about him, but Delia, Catherine O'Hara, was, first of all, stunning. She was so gorgeous in this role.
Oh, yeah.
And, very mean and quirky in herself, and artistic and weird and
she was like
eccentric.
If the dancers from Robert Palmer music videos had a boss,
yeah,
it would be her, Mama Dietz.
But the guy that played the designer,
Otho,
he was
rest in peace,
hilarious.
King. I know.
The two of them together were really the couple of
agreed.
That was of interest from that side of the family.
And although there was no sexual component, it was heavily implied that she was like intellectually cuckolding her husband with this guy. Like,
she just wanted him to be. I mean, he was there all the time. He showed up there in a robe when they were on the roof.
I love how put out he always was.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is terrible.
But what he did to that house was incredible
and weird.
Yeah, so weird, but so incredible. Like the transformation and the inside and everything was just insane. So that was really fun to see. Of course, Michael Keaton, we meet him and he just steals the show. Lydia, aka our darling that we've already talked about.
Oh, yes.
Winona Ryder was incredible. So young and sweet and very talented. You could see how talented she was. It reminded me of that movie she was with Mermaids with Cher.
With Cher, yeah.
And Christina Ricci.
Yeah.
That was so sweet, and she was sweet in it, and she was also sweet in this, even though she was meant to play this dark character.
Well, she's so vulnerable.
Yeah.
She's very lonely. She's like, no one understands her. She's a teenager.
Yeah.
And she's a goth girl in like a very yuppie household.
And one thing that I felt that the film didn't really dig into enough for my liking. There were a lot of things. I feel like it's very superficial. I think this movie suffered from a little too many interesting plot points and only touching those superficially. So one major plot point that I think was suffered from not going deep enough was the fact that Adam and Barbara never had kids. And Lydia shows up, and they fell in love with her.
Oh, yeah.
She could see them.
Right. Yeah.
They could see her for who she was.
They do adopt her, like, as a daughter.
Not really.
They treat
Charles
her like that.
and Delia still live in that house.
But they treat her like it.
Yeah, they do.
That's what I mean.
But that is like bookended.
Yeah.
There's not really enough development throughout the film of that. I really
Maybe
thought
it's because they died before they could have kids.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That's like a big plot hole as to like, are they boring?
See, again, when you see this as a kid, that's not something you wonder about. Yeah.
But that was very special. I thought that was really sweet. I also liked how the underworld, netherworld parts looked so like desolate and scary. It wasn't at all like heaven or hell like we've imagined or seen in other films.
It was, I'd say,
it was like Dune
much
with the
more like
sandworm.
purgatory.
But it was like the beetle worm.
Yeah, yeah.
And the fact
waiting
that
room.
They couldn't leave their house until they either figured out how to die.
Yeah.
That was the other thing. It was a very tongue-in-cheek tale about death and how you're never prepared.
Even if you have a handbook.
Yeah, and the handbook didn't make any sense, and they had to go through this. Really, you think that everything's done when you die.
Yeah.
With going to like the DMV and waiting in line.
Well, isn't that
that
the hell of the afterlife? Is that the bureaucracy does not end when you die?
Yeah, and Barbara kept being like, "What did we like? Why? What did we do wrong? Were we bad people?"
Yeah.
But I guess it was sort of Tim Burton's interpretation of like, this is what happens. This is the road to the next place.
I mean, no one gave a shit about you in life, and no one cares in death. You gotta wait in line.
And so it was really funny that he was basically like, your problems aren't taken care of. You just have to keep going and go to these like weird post office type experiences. I did like some of the characters in the waiting room. That was really interesting. And I think also the way that they figure things out, how they figure out what Beetlejuice is going to do for them, and then also how to get rid of him for good, even though he tries to marry Lydia and stay forever, whatever that would look like and whatever that would mean. And it was a really sweet way to have those two still exist in the house.
Yeah. Oh, you mean the resolution at the end?
Yeah.
Oh, the coexistence, the harmony that the living and the dead reach was lovely.
Yeah.
And you get the sense that that's never really been attempted before in this world.
And she went to school there and wasn't a goth anymore.
Yeah.
But still got to embrace her visual and relationship with ghosts.
Well, that's the
So
thing.
it was like
that's
more-
growing up.
Yeah.
Like, so I was really, really heavily into the punk community when I was younger, and I'm still extremely much that way. But at a certain age, you choose to stick with the ideology, the music, or the culture, but you realize like, I don't need to wear the uniform anymore. Or maybe I do. Like, that's a decision that you can make and decide to internalize like the ethos and the pathos of the thing you like, instead of being more external. Like when you're young, you want to show everybody, but when I feel like you grow up a little bit, you're like, I don't need to let everyone know all the stuff I'm into.
Yeah, she had friends at school, and she rode her bike home because she was really proud of what she got on one of her tests.
Yep.
And they, levitated her and
Yeah, that
sung
was the
song at the
reward,
end.
was do the Harry Belafonte possession dance.
Yeah, so it's really sweet. I thought, like I said, at its core, it was really about the relationship between Adam and Barbara and Lydia.
It's a lot about identity as well.
Yeah.
And learning to coexist, I think, with people who you share common values, but it might be hard to get to an understanding of those because your outward values are different.
And they sort of created the house to coexist with both styles of design.
I thought that's one of the things that I really love about this movie, beyond the design, the Danny Elfman music, the Tim Burton aesthetic of it all, the fucking stop motion sequences that are just chef's kiss. It's the resolution really is yin and yang. It's coexistence. It's a beautiful message of meeting each other in the middle and creating a new form of afterlife that no one's ever thought to do before, but is actually at its core quite simple.
Yeah, because Adam and Barbara never really wanted to leave the house ever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so they got to stay there forever. And Charles and Delia just wanted to have like an escape from the city, which they do. Charles just wanted to relax, which I think he was able to do.
Delia, for all her, her bombast and like her loud appearance and whatnot, she just wants to be herself.
Yeah.
She wants to make her art and dress the way she dresses and be herself.
And she got inspired by Beetlejuice and all of the weird things that happened. And that was the other thing that was really interesting, is you would think that these ghosts and, the way that Adam and Barbara go about scaring Delia and Charles and their friends is really funny, because it's not scary and it doesn't turn out to be scary. And they're like, wow, how can we be the talk of the town.
I know.
About this.
Yeah, it's
how can we
very
leverage
80s.
this to our advantage?
Yeah, and now, I guess.
Delia actually was creatively inspired. Her agent, played by that news guy,
I don't remember.
Dick Cavett.
Oh my God, you're right.
So Dick Cavett was like, Delia, you're not a good artist anyway. It's all terrible. But now I feel like she's coming to her own and she's able to make.
They had that party with all those horrible fake friends. Yeah. No, it's a movie. It's a lot about acceptance as well.
Yeah.
And the thing about Beetlejuice, right? He's a disgusting pig, so you shouldn't be like Beetlejuice, but he does inject a tiny bit of anarchy that they all carry through at the end.
Beetlejuice gives you just enough chaos to come together against him.
Be 1% Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Be the part of him that is confident and, free to like be who he is. Don't be the part that like kidnaps children and tries to force them into weddings.
I just think that if they played more into the human relationships piece, it would have been like a 5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah. Then it may not have been like the commercial success.
Correct.
It was,
and
though.
Speaking of commercial success, this film was made over 73 million.
Yeah.
And it was put together for 13 million.
In 1988, all paychecks were paid out in cocaine, though.
It was 1988's one of highest grossing films, alongside Rain Man and Big.
And Tim Burton's next one out of the gate, a movie he had already been writing for years at this point, was Batman.
It launched Tim Burton,
changed
and
this
Winona
young man's
Ryder,
life.
who won an Oscar for makeup.
Yeah.
And moved into cartoon, musical, a sequel. So it's got a pretty strong legacy. The only person who initially wanted to be in this film was Gina Davis. And Catherine O'Hara and Winona Ryder were really hard to get. Tim Burton really, really wanted Beetlejuice to be Sammy Davis Jr., played by Sammy Davis Jr.
No. God.
But, the studio vetoed it, and David Geffen actually presented Tim Burton with Michael Keaton as an idea for Beetlejuice.
There can't be I mean, listen, I'm not going to lie. I would love to see an alternate universe with Sammy Davis Jr., but I just don't think it would have been very good, especially not in 1988.
No, I mean, the gross out factor. He's too cool, And
like old also at that point. Wow, I'm speechless by that. I had no idea. That's really something. It was movies like this, though, that created such a backlash when Michael Keaton was announced as the next Batman, because everyone was like, he's funny. He's a comedy actor.
Right, because Mr. Mom,
goes to show you that
Mr. Mom,
even before the internet, everyone lost their fucking minds every time they announced who the next person to play Batman was. And like literally every time that's announced.
I'm Batman.
I know, and I'd watch it.
No, please don't.
So, Beetlejuice, what do you think? Out of 5 TNT stacks of TNT, what are we talking?
I would give it 3 3/4 TNTs.
Ooh, we're going by quarters? I like that.
Yeah.
3 3/4.
It's almost a 4 for me.
Love it.
I think it from my own lack of engaging in the content when was appropriate to do so, is the reason why it's not as revered in my heart.
No, that's absolutely fair. That is absolutely fair, because every subsequent time I've seen this movie, it's been with the bias of seeing it as like a 10-year-old and being in love with it, and also having a huge crush on
timing is really important sometimes when
Absolutely.
it comes to things like
timing
this.
is really important sometimes. I wanted to talk just for a second, because you and I had discussed this again off mic. Our rating system, how we like to go out of 5 because 4 is not enough, and you got to do halves at least. And I guess we're going quarters, but anything that like doesn't let you do half stars or half whatevers, That's some bullshit.
I said 3 3/4.
Yeah, I know. So that's still quarters.
I know.
Anything that doesn't let you do half stars. There's a big difference between 3 and 4, 4 and 5. But 3.5.
If I want to do
3 3/4.
A 3.95, I should be able to.
You should be able to do anything you want, okay? What is this? Soviet America, Russia?
What is this? Beetlejuice?
Communist?
Beetlejuice?
Is this fascist
Beetlejuice?
communism here that we're talking about? You right-wing Stalinist? Anyway, that's Beetlejuice.
Excellent.
I think we should break here, and then we should come back, and maybe you should make me talk about what you made me watch.
Okay.
Your body is a slab of marble, waiting to be sculpted to perfection. And you're not about to sully it with some trashy tattoo or trendy piercing. No, your flesh canvas is sacred, deserving of only the finest skin-melting transmogrifiers. So come get your bespoke look at Cronenberg's Cosmetics, a new brand of improvement salves and lotions guaranteed to make you look super gross. From gastric implants that will make you vomit corrosive acid, to weird sensory worms growing out of your nethers, if your fevered mind can dream it up, we can graft it onto you, no questions asked. Extra goo available upon request. At Cronenberg's Cosmetics, our team of twin gynecologists and people who are way into car crashes will help sculpt the new you, like a Play-Doh fun factory made of your guts. Live the barf-worthy fantasy you never asked for with our patented body melts or appendage swap transporters. All hail the new flesh with Cronenberg's Cosmetics. Stand out from the crowd by making the crowd run from you in abject revulsion. Call now for our Nipples Everywhere special. This is a fake ad for a fake product on a horror-themed podcast. Just aged naturally. Quality products for a quality audience. The noise you heard was my stomach. Yeah, it makes all sorts of noise. Usually backwards Latin, that translates to something like "Save me from the flames." So anyway, welcome back to Made You Watch. We have already discussed the 3 3/4 rated Beetlejuice.
Well, what would you rate it, just to wrap that up?
I'd give it a 4.
Okay. Well, my Made You for Richard was something that I watched and have already discussed on this pod for the Bad Parents episode.
You did.
So if you want to hear my deeper take on that, I did sort of underplay the giveaway of this film because I wanted Richard to watch it for Made You. So I did highlight the mother for this. But ultimately, she's not a bad mother.
No. Can we spoil things? Because I don't know how to talk about this without spoiling it.
Yeah, we can spoil it. 2014.
Spoiler.
10
Spoiler.
years ago.
Spoiler. Spoiler.
Okay. So, Goodnight Mommy from 2014, not the remake.
Not the 2022.
Although maybe we will do a remake.
I would rather not.
Written and directed by the writer-director team Severin Viela and Veronica Franz, yes, who also created and directed The Lodge and The Devil's Bath most recently.
Yes, I have seen The Lodge. It's incredible. And I just started watching The Devil's Bath. And based on the first few minutes, bleak.
But we're not here to talk about those films. It stars Lucas and Elias Schwartz. And it's, I think, the only film they've ever done.
As Lucas and Elias. That's
Yes.
their names in the movies. Lucas.
And Suzanne Lust, who is an Austrian actress.
She's been in tons of stuff.
Yeah, she lived alone for 3 months to prepare for the role and wrapped herself in bandages and also kept 2 pet cockroaches, which...
Fucking hell.
I believe I mentioned that before in our previous episode,
Yeah.
but it's worth noting again.
In this movie, she is only known as Mutter.
And so the plot is really imposter syndrome. People who experience this type of syndrome believe that someone they know or recognize has been replaced by an imposter. You yourself can feel like an imposter, but you really know the truth. But this is really about the kids believing that their mother is not their mother, because she comes back from getting plastic surgery and she's all wrapped in bandages. And they believe, the twins believe, and lead the viewer to believe for most of the film, that she is a bad mother.
Or that she literally has been replaced by an evil, like, doppelganger.
Right.
Doppelmutter.
What I really liked about this film was how much of a horrific experience it was to watch and get through. Because it really was, I pushed myself because it was very graphic, and lots of cockroaches. And for those of you that don't know, I don't talk about it a lot because I don't want to talk about it. I am very uncomfortable and afraid of cockroaches. Like the idea, thought, leg situation, squirming, that there's probably thousands of them at one time and you could only maybe see one, is really, really unsettling for me. And there was a lot of cockroach play in this film. Very, very uncomfortable. Also, what I found fascinating was how atmospheric this film was. You really got the isolation of this house and this family, and you knew something was off. And the way that it was directed and the way that the kids acted, the twins acted, really led you to believe that the thing that was off was that this mother wasn't actually their mother. So the whole time you're trying to play along with these kids and really hope for the best. And then they just go really crazy on her. They start to torture her in ways that is very uncomfortable to watch. And throughout the film, it starts to become clear that she's actually not a villain. She's just hasn't been a perfect mother, but she's not at all a villain. We find out about an accident that Lucas and Elias had, along with, something that created a rift in the family. And we see the end of the film where everything comes together and we really see what was this real evil that existed all along. So when I watched it, it had all of the elements of horror films that Richard loves, which is slow burn, unreliable narrator. That's something I love, but I know he loves it as well.
Or do I?
Like a mother-son relationship that is a little like reminiscent of other bad mother-son relationships.
I don't know what you're talking about. Mommy issues?
Also, just how things like slowly reveal themselves and the truth starts to surface in a way that is really well done. I don't think that you can really figure this ending out before the filmmakers want you to. So that's why I made you watch.
Awesome. I fucking love this movie. It's amazing. I had never seen it, but it was on my list for a while because I had seen The Lodge. And like I said, I'm watching The Devil's Bath now, and the through line is this duo is so confident and knows how to pace their movie. I feel like sometimes directors panic at a certain point when they're trying to make a movie like this, and they're like, what if people don't get it? What if it's not clear enough? And they maybe rush to overcorrect or overexplain. That does not happen. Everything is laid out so perfectly at the exact right moment that you're never bored. I was, wrapped the entire time, but I couldn't guess what was happening.
Yeah.
Before it happened,
because they do it so well.
I'm usually pretty bad at that anyway, but you are not. You usually can pick things out. But this is written in such a masterful way and paced in such a way that you're not bored you don't know what's going on. The twist genuinely shocks you, and
I think
it makes sense.
Benefits from being in a foreign language and subtitled too, because maybe if it was an American film, you might be able to pick it out a little bit easier.
Maybe.
Because one of the kids is left-handed,
the
other kid is right-handed.
And there's always that moment sometimes when you're watching a foreign film where you're like, well, are they acting strangely, or is this just how shit happens?
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Is this how it happens in Austria?
Yeah.
Do people from Goodwill come and sit at the table for hours and look around?
That was something.
I know.
Yeah. Or was that like Child Protective Services? I don't know. But the movie really... really makes you think that whoever their mother was, this is not that person, that this person wearing bandages is a replacement. And even after the bandages come off, you're still really led to believe that this is a different woman who's gotten surgery to look like their mom. And so Lucas and Elias are, trying to like survive, and they're alone with this woman, and it's terrifying because you're like, well, God, what would you do? You're just a little kid. You don't know shit. And there's this like, is she a shapeshifter? Is she an alien? And then, spoiler.
And it's interesting because of why I brought it to the bad moms, because most of the film she is represented as a bad mom in the way that she treats one of her children,
which
over
does
the other.
happen. So the thing is, there's some things that in this movie that happen that seem so strange, but that's because you realize everything you're seeing is through the eyes of a traumatized and deeply fucked up child who, spoiler, murdered his brother and now sees his ghost everywhere because he is like crushed by the guilt or whatever, traumatized by it. The father left because of this. The mother has had to pretend that her dead child is still around to keep the one that killed him like from going bananas. So she is completely like on edge all the time. So it really makes sense when she loses her cool.
She also pretends that. So Elias is the one that lives.
She has to pretend
Lucas is the one that was killed.
She has to pretend because
pretends that Lucas is alive,
but only for Elias, because she at certain point she breaks down and is like, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. And
she's feeding into his like
Elias
psychopathy.
is a deeply horrible monster of a villain child. I guess he's traumatized, whatever, but oh my God. So once the switch happens and I really went back and I went through this. There's nothing unearned. It's perfect. You start to realize that all the scary moments that you saw were actually quite innocuous, and it was just because that was the kid watching. It was through his warped perspective, or it was a dream, a nightmare he had. You're like, wait, that didn't actually happen. That was a nightmare he had. And you start to put it together, and listen, there are over 2,000 Madagascar hissing cockroaches in this movie, which are, if you don't know, enormous. They're very, very large. And Wust, who played Mutter, she did adopt two of them, one of which she named Matilda. And Matilda is the one that crawls up her stomach into her mouth.
Oh, God.
Now, the mouth part, they had to CGI, but it did go directly towards her mouth because she had trained it. And cockroaches, when the lights are on, like studio lights, they go someplace dark. And the darkest place was her open mouth. Ugh. So it went right there. They didn't have to CGI that part, which is why it looks so real, because it is. Now, before you get too upset, I just want to quote, when asked, this is what Wust herself said. When we started shooting that scene, my face was under so many lights because her instinct, Matilda, was stronger than her fear. She immediately went towards my mouth. And then she said later, she was a very clever, very sweet roach, and she was way more afraid of doing that than I was.
Oh, boy.
So actually, Matilda was trained by Wust, lived with her for a couple of months, and she seemed quite comfortable being around these live cockroaches. And the boys, Lucas and Elias, the twins who star in the film, they took some roaches home with them too and named them Rambo and Rocky. And everybody got cool with these things so that, when they're in the movie, they do handle them quite often. And they're all real, baby. Those are real Madagascar hissing cockroaches.
What also is really challenging is the super glue moment.
Yes, there's a lot of...
and the scissors.
Yes, so there's...
And the cutting. And the cutting of the skin attached to the super glue. The sound, I don't know the sound designer of this film, but that actual cut sound
yes.
of where you can hear
that's the real cut. Horror of this movie is it's not especially bloody.
No,
it's that the sound design,
I think that's probably the
camera
only blood,
work,
actually.
The implication and just the horror of what's going on is it really adds together to make things much more visceral and horrific than they may actually be. However, getting your mouth glued shut with super glue and then cut open with cuticle scissors is awful. So, Goodnight Mommy, I get 5 out of 5 Madagascar hissing cockroaches for me. It is a masterpiece of a movie. I'm not at all interested in the remake because I do not understand.
It doesn't need it.
I don't understand the point of remaking something that was perfect the first time. If it was flawed, but it offered something cool, maybe it couldn't reach the heights because of budget or time or whatever. Yeah, that's ripe for a remake. Like The Blob. When they remade that, Chuck Russell remade it. It was amazing because the original's kind of dumb. Mm-hmm. But remaking this is a masterpiece. Any filmmaker wanting a masterclass in pacing and what to reveal and what not to reveal, when to reveal it, when to hold back. I mean, because questions are answered by the end of their movies. The Lodge and this don't end with like, well, it's up to you to figure it out. No, it's very clear what happened. It's just it's such a mystery right up until the moment the directors and the writers decide they will reveal it to you. They are not allowing the audience to play their games and to get ahead of them. These folks are in control, and I truly admire that.
Yeah, I thought that was the strongest part of the... First of all, those kids were great.
They were fantastic. So it was very naturalistic.
Yeah, because they were like left to their own devices.
Yes, and they acted like kids who would be left alone.
But they weren't.
Yeah.
Just Elias was.
I know.
And, it didn't do that annoying filmmaking technique that I sometimes appreciate and also
it's a little
don't
overdone.
Love is when they go back to show you all the moments that were imagined.
And I haven't seen the American
Fight Club
remake.
Did a great job of that. That was really critical
of
to
what?
Fight Club.
And also The Sixth Sense.
Yeah. That was very critical to showing you what you missed and why you missed it and how you missed it. But they didn't do that here, and I really appreciate it.
I agree. Yeah, no, you had to do your own work. It's kind of like the fake documentary, like the Office TV show thing where it's like they do a visual joke and then they have a talking head explaining the joke you just fucking watched yourself. Like, okay, dum-dums, here's what just happened. I don't appreciate that either. I really like that this movie, you had to go back and really think about it and go, actually, oh my gosh, I got that wrong. I was incorrect.
From a filmmaking perspective, I mean, it's pushing you to rewatch.
It's a beautiful film,
so that
too.
You can then try to pick up on the subtle clues. Because I'm sure there are subtle clues there.
Absolutely. The other through line
how she
their movies,
ever looks at Lucas.
They're beautiful.
Lucas is gone, and she never really looks at him, even though she does sort of acknowledge him.
The way you would an imaginary friend.
Yes.
Like, oh, are they here right now? Yeah, hi. It's very good. It rewards the patient viewer, but by that I don't mean that it's boring. It really isn't. I know a lot of slow burn films. I love them, but some people may not have the patience for it. This really isn't that. It's just a matter of a lot of films are unevenly paced. So you'll have moments that breeze and then moments that drag, and then there's an exposition dump catching you up on all the stuff that they really should have been feeding to you, a little bit at a time the whole way along. That's what this does. Everything is lean, mean, there's nothing wasted, and like any good slow burn horror movie, it leaves you gasping at the end.
Yeah.
It has a horrible ending. My God. And
it's not a happy ending.
The other thing that this movie does, and screw you guys for this, is really makes you feel badly for how you rushed to judgment.
Yeah, you hated that mother.
Everybody does.
You hated the mother, and you also, it doesn't even matter if she was an imposter or not. If she was an imposter, you hated her. If she was an imposter, you hated her.
I think this is one of the best things that the movie accomplishes is it makes you rush to judgment because it really doesn't offer you an alternative. However, there is an alternative. You could absorb what you're watching and go, well, this seems like one side of the story. But no one does that.
No.
We just watch it and we're like, oh my God, this is what's happening. This is what's true because it's being told to me. And then I got to the end of that movie being like, I feel terrible.
Yeah, it forces you to reconcile with your own snap judgment.
Yes.
I think, honestly, that the reason this film does work in the way that it's meant to is that it's very uncomfortable from the beginning all the way through the end, because you're uncomfortable with those kids being left alone.
Yeah.
From what you perceive at the first scene when they're running
absolutely.
in the woods.
I know.
No one's home.
Yeah.
They're running through that house.
And that happens.
They're feeding themselves.
She really does leave them alone.
In the middle of nowhere.
But then when you find out why, because no one wants to go fucking near them.
Yeah.
She's the only person they have left. And
all the way through the end.
You should also mention she is not having it's never really necessarily
she's
laid
having
out.
reconstructive
She's not having
surgery.
plastic surgery. She's having reconstructive surgery from the accident Elias caused that killed Lucas, broke their marriage apart, and essentially disfigured her for a while.
Yeah.
Because this happened in the past, and she's just now having this surgery. So we have to imagine she has been living however many months or years of her life going through a divorce and mourning her son with horrible damage to her face.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh man, this movie. Gosh,
this writer-director team are they definitely watch out for them, because The Lodge is also very good.
And
I haven't watched The Devil's Bath. But
The Lodge is insanely good, and it's another story of questioning your own eyes and ears, and another like real fucking bleak gut puncher.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for making me watch this one, because it was on like all of my lists and queues and saved everywhere, and I just kept passing over it for some reason until you plopped me down and made me watch it, and I'm so glad you did. It's so good.
And thank you for making me watch Beetlejuice, because I probably wouldn't have.
Now you're part of the zeitgeist.
Yeah, now I can say that I've watched Beetlejuice and enjoyed it.
I know. And how many parties have we been kicked out of once people find out you haven't seen that movie?
I know. It's perfect timing, too, because Halloween's coming.
And
I mean, honestly, you could be the Goodnight Mommy character for Halloween. That would be a great one.
With the bandages and shit?
Bandages and cockroaches.
Can they be fake?
Yeah, of course. Because, not all of us have months to train Madagascar hissing cockroaches.
Well, that makes me, it reminds me, I would like to introduce you to my new friend, Matilda.
She's dead. I put her in the trash can.
Wo ist Matilda?
Well, thanks for joining us for another Meiju.
Yeah, I think we should keep doing these. I really, really like them. They're fun, and they expose me to things that I might not do on my own.
And I do things that you want me to do.
What?
Make me do.
All the time. In all things.
No.
Where's my
watch
dinner?
Things that no matter how uncomfortable I am. Actually,
no.
Mine was more uncomfortable for you.
I know. Next time I'm going to give you something real juicy.
Oh.
Bye, everybody. Terror in Tandem is written, produced, and recorded by Laura and Richard Mathiasen, and edited and mixed by Richard Mathiasen. Our theme was written and performed by Carrie Denver, and all other music was written and performed by David Sispanik. All opinions expressed on this podcast are our own and should be taken as such. Thanks for listening, and please remember to give us a like, a review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. We're standing right behind you.